This week, LG might leave the smartphone market. Xbox Live is now the Xbox Network. And Twitch is scoring your stream. It's Sunday, March 28th, 2021, and this is episode 591 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, through a podcatcher like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, TuneIn, or a myriad of other options, through our live stream platforms, livestream.com, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is you can join us live Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern by going to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you are joining us through one of our live stream platforms, the best way to join in on the conversation is either YouTube or Twitch. If you're not joining us live, that's okay too. You can always go to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, The Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a whole lot more. And of course, you can find all the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. Now, I want to start, before we get into it, I want to say the intro will change just a little bit in our next episode, because on Wednesday, Periscope is officially shutting down, so that list is going to get shorter one more time. It seems like we keep losing services, Avram, because we've already lost Mixer and now we're losing Periscope. But the services that you can watch and listen to us on afterwards continue to grow, because we are on Amazon Music and Audible, so there's lots of ways that you can listen after the fact. Anyway, goodbye to Periscope. You've been good to us. If you are watching us on Periscope right now, make sure that you go find us somewhere else. Find us on our Twitter, on our Facebook, on our YouTube, on our Twitch, somewhere else, so that you can continue watching the show. Anyway, Avram, how have you been?
Decent. Time just seem to fly by this week. I don't know where it all went.
Right?
Just editing a bunch of things. Yeah, I don't know where the week went. I feel like I accomplished nothing.
Me too.
But we did. We were in the process of bringing on a whole bunch of new writers, which is cool. So, working with some of them to try and when you bring on new people, you got to try and get them into the style of what we want to do and all that. Yeah. So, but still, we've got some pretty great new people writing for us. We have a guy who is a world champion case modder, and he put up his sci-fi case, his story of how he built his sci-fi case, which we now have on the homepage at tomshardware.com. And we are going really full speed ahead into getting more 3D printer content. So we have a really great 3D printer guy, and he's doing a couple of new 3D printer reviews a week. Nice. So we are going to be really full up on 3D printer advice pretty soon. But he just got started. So that kind of stuff, just time flew, programming, soldering stuff. My son and I have been working on some things, here's a thing we were working on today. Well, actually, this is just part of the thing that we're working on today. Sure. So that, I finally unlocked the one thing I really need to solder at decent quality which is to get a giant magnifying glass. I just got a giant magnifying glass lamp, and now I can actually see what I'm doing. And it's amazing. You can actually like see the solder flowing and everything. It's great. So the little things that improve your life.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where my week went. I feel like more should have happened. I should have done more. So I guess I guess we'll see what happens this coming week. But anyway, yeah, I mean, there's I have a lot of goodies here that my son and I continue to work on. Lots of boards. We're trying to put together trying to make our own custom. We continue to experiment with making custom controllers. Mm-hmm. He's now really into this thing called Make Code Arcade, which is made by Microsoft, which is a thing where you can really easily make games by dragging and dropping code. So he had we were working on a thing where you could basically make a Make Code Arcade station where you can because it's very easy. There's a firmware you can put on any Raspberry Pi to do it, and then if you attach buttons to it, the buttons become like a controller. And so we were looking to see how we could make a really good controller for it, things like that. But
that's cool.
Anyway, that's I don't know. That's my week. How about yours?
My week seemed to be about the same. I feel like I accomplished absolutely nothing. And Friday was the worst. I ended up trying to, when you're trying to debug code and you just get no reference. Where? Bite me.
Yeah.
And so almost my entire Friday was trying to find a null reference somewhere in code. So that never makes you feel good. And I haven't found it yet. I ended Friday with no idea where it's happening. So
it's really frustrating.
Yeah. It's really frustrating when you've got really complex code and somebody else makes changes, not fully understanding what's happening. And then you end up with these errors and you're like, well, what changed? I don't know. Oh, you're going through one line at a time, putting try catches. Is this where it's blowing up? No. Okay, move on.
Very, very frustrating.
Yeah, so that was my Friday, but that's okay.
No question about it.
We've got some fun stuff coming. I just received this week a new product that we're going to be reviewing. This is one of the products that we had on the show at CES. This is the Mighty Mic L-Pack from Amperage. It's got a Bluetooth microphone in it, which is supposed to be, from everything we've heard, really high quality. And then it's got a lapel you can plug into it too, which is pretty cool. So definitely looking forward to that. And I'm going to try and push it way past what it was intended for, as I tend to do, because after I pair it to a phone and try and do a recording that way, I'm going to pair it to the Rodecaster and see if I can Bluetooth mic into the Rodecaster, which I think would be pretty cool. Don't think it'll happen, but so I've got that. We've got a couple other reviews in the pipeline. One that might publish tonight or tomorrow morning. So that's pretty cool. A little desktop power station that from Excel. Pretty cool little thing. I'll give you a hint for those of you who are watching live, since it's going to go live probably before this gets published. It's really great. I love it, and I want another one for our review station so we can have all our phones and stuff plugged in. But anyway, sounds like we've both got lots of new content coming, so definitely check that out. But for now, let's get down to the news of the week. This week's Nifty Gifties and F5 Live is proudly powered by Microsoft. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, a tablet, maybe an Xbox, but certainly games, or of course a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store, and current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% on almost everything. To find out more about that and the deals that are going on right now, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So, over the last couple of years, we have watched big changes come to some of the original smartphone companies. Obviously, BlackBerry and Palm both unceremoniously have essentially exited the market entirely. The other big players, of course, being HTC, LG, and Motorola. Motorola's had a difficult time of it. They've had a couple of owners over the last couple of years, at one point being part of Google and then coming over to Lenovo, who has, in fairness, brought some life back into the brand that solo and under Google's control didn't seem to exist. After that, HTC, or part of it, that whole transition, I'm still not entirely clear on what happened there, but most of HTC's smartphone division ended up as part of Google, taking Motorola's place. It was all very strange, but obviously that transition was very strange, leaving us with LG. Now, if you've been following LG's smartphone journey over the last couple of years, it's been weird. They definitely decided that they were going to be the weird company and try odd things like the Wing. The problem, of course, is that they never stick with anything long enough to build up loyalty behind a brand. But no matter the reasoning, it looks like LG might be following in the footsteps of one of its pairs of compatriots. Either possibly a couple of weeks ago, there were rumors that they were looking for a sale. This week, the rumor is that they are going to kind of follow Palm's lead and just vanish into the darkness without a trace, which is, of course, disappointing for a company as big and wide as LG, but they've struggled. It wasn't, a decade ago, if you thought about smartphones, LG was in your head. Today, even those of us in the space don't necessarily think of LG. When they announced the Wing, I was surprised that they were still around, to be perfectly honest. So, I don't know. I have a feeling that this latest move, Avram, is because they tried to find a buyer and no one was interested.
I don't understand. I mean, I guess I understand, but I'm sad because LG has been, lately they seem to not be really, they've always been a step behind Samsung, but they've also been a company that's willing to take a lot of risks with smartphones. I mean, they were one of the first to do like a dual screen smartphone, right? They were one of the first to use pen. They've done a lot of things to really, that really stood out. And and their software, their interface has been good. The problem is usually when you compare it to like Samsung, well, maybe LG was not quite as good. But I was just looking and like, there's a lot of LG phones for sale right now. I mean, I guess they're not considered top of the line, but both T-Mobile and Verizon have 6 different LG phones for sale. So it's not like they're not heard of. Yeah. But what happens if LG exits the market? I mean, the thing that a lot of us like about Android is the variety of different manufacturers and devices. So without LG here in the US anyway, where we're not allowed to have Huawei and ZTE phones anymore, right? What are we left with? Like if you look at it, right? I'm looking at Verizon. Here's what they have. They have Apple phones, Samsung, Motorola, Google, Kyocera, Nokia, OnePlus, Palm, Sonim, never heard of, and TCL.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I'm sorry. Hold on. Kyocera?
Kyocera, yeah.
Wow.
What
That's
kind of phone do you get with Kyocera? Let's see.
in fairness,
You dare,
they're also a company that's been willing to take weird risks because they were the first dual screen Android device.
okay, so what they have from Kyocera at Verizon, and maybe makes sense, is extremely rugged phones.
Yeah.
To Duraforce rugged phones.
My
So
dad
that's a niche.
my dad had one of
Yeah.
their rugged phones for years until he couldn't even get a battery for it anymore.
That's a niche. That's a niche market that somebody can do well in because Samsung is not really playing in that space. Apple's not playing in that space.
Yeah.
Granted, you could argue that I could just get a rugged case, but if the phone itself is rugged, that probably gives you more durability built in. So, but I mean, Motorola has become really known as inexpensive phones, right? The bottom, just the cheapest phones, right? I don't even OnePlus, is an interesting company that comes out with like one phone a year. So what are we boiling the market down to now? Apple, Samsung, and Google. In terms of that's to me that's kind of scary because the whole point of Android was it was supposed to be a huge marketplace, and now you have companies exiting left and right. I mean, it used to be a much more competitive space when you had HTC in there and you had LG and Sony. When's the last time Sony came out with a phone? So Sony's been out of the phone business for a while too, right?
I think they're still making them. I think they're not doing anything through the carriers though, which essentially makes them gone.
Right. So I mean, it's sad because there used to be such a variety.
I gotta say, this Sonim phone, the XP8, looks like you could fire mortar at it and it would be fine. My goodness. I'm on
right,
AT&T's
so-
I'm on AT&T's website, by the way. Since you went to Verizon, I went to AT&T just to get some variety. And it
Right.
sounds
I mean,
like there
there's-
isn't any. And remember,
Right. Yeah, that's
yeah.
very sad. Very, very sad.
I will point out
Also-
something interesting about AT&T's lineup. They have a flip phone that is Singular branded.
Also, I thought they still make Blackberries. Can you not buy Blackberry through a carrier?
TCL ended their relationship with BlackBerry to start producing phones under their own name.
So there's no the variety is just, this is a very sad moment for phones.
Yeah.
I mean, you're taking a what had been a major player in the market. Granted, they could never catch up. They never caught up to Samsung, but taking a major player out of the marketplace, it's very sad.
Yeah. On AT&T's
Not
site,
good for consumers.
on AT&T's site, the choice is even smaller than Verizon's because over here we don't have OnePlus. So over at AT&T, we're even one manufacturer short. We do. There is. I had a rep tell me it was pronounced Kyocera, and I refuse to say it that way. So I will continue to say Kyocera. There is one of those over here. There's the weirdo wing from LG. Still such a strange phone. And
yes.
AT&T has the Surface Duo to replace the One Plus that's missing from Verizon. So there we go. We do have an even out. So, but I mean, yeah. I mean, if you look at how many LG phones are on this list here, you're losing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you'd lose 7 devices off of this already uninteresting list of devices. So, not great. Hopefully, somebody will be interested in picking it up, because I think the variety is important, and I think having a company like LG that's willing to do something weird like the Wing, when I think we all know when we saw that thing, we're like, well, there's no market for that weird thing. And apparently the sales at Verizon, which was supposed to have the exclusive on it, were so poor that they gave up their exclusivity on it. But
Well,
still, trying weird stuff is what Android was all about. Being able to have this wide variety of options is what Android was all about. Apple is all about conformity, and Android was all about you be you.
Right.
So it's disappointing.
Yeah, it's not good. But on the other hand, as someone who's editor for a site where we don't generally cover phones, I guess bully for us, because we're not missing anything. There's just not a lot of excitement.
Yeah, for sure. Excuse me, hiccups all of a sudden. Just as a note, there are direct from Sony, there are 6 different Xperia models available right now. So they are apparently still manufacturing them. But if they're not from the carriers, you're obviously limiting your potential in the US. So still not great.
Also, I don't see a single phone on any of these sites with a keyboard. You used to be able to find the BlackBerry, or there were some like cheap, not good quality, not the best quality, but you could get a keyboard phone if you really, really wanted one. But no longer.
Or the PPCs from HTC. They made those well past their expected lifespan. I can say I had many of them, but yeah. Yeah, without BlackBerry, we kind of lost the last of the keyboard phones. I actually saw an article this week. I think basketball player carries a BlackBerry, and his argument is it's all about the keyboard. And you and I have had this conversation. How long did I hold on to my Palm after Palm was done? Way too long, because I loved the keyboard, and I still miss it. I still wish
I wish
would suddenly go, hey, let's make a phone with the old keyboard again. But no. And that little Palm, Palm atrocity that Verizon has.
Yeah,
because it's not even actually a phone.
I don't see the point of that. Yeah, I don't see the point of having a secondary phone. Like, one phone is enough. But
yeah,
I mean, I used to really love the keyboards. I still would, but my highest priority on a phone now is the camera, and so that's why my current phone is a Pixel, and because Google has such good camera quality, and like the Pixel 4a 5G was relatively inexpensive, but I still make my plenty of typos because I don't have the keyboard, but I've kind of gotten used to that, and I sort of, at this point, I'm like, well, I hope nobody notices it. I hope nobody cares that I have some typos in these.
Yeah, if Palm would make an actual phone again, and not, honest to God, it's an atrocity, that weird little thing. If they would make an actual phone again, I would consider it. I miss it. But anyway, if LG exits entirely, we will be down one manufacturer. But They won't be leaving the market entirely. They are still one of the largest manufacturers of screen panels for smartphones, and they have no interest in getting out of that business because it's the only part of the industry that has been a success for them in the last couple of years. So they will definitely still be sticking around there, but you won't have LG branded phones. We'll definitely see what comes of it in the near future, though. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, you can it's available on almost all of your devices, and you can get a special price right now by going to piltchpoint.live/PureVPN. All right, so this was one of our first topics after the lockdown started just over a year ago. And it's probably time to revisit it, right? What has made our lives more bearable working from home? I think your mic is muted, buddy. I can't hear you.
Sorry, you've been working from home. It's a habit. I've gotten a habit from conference calls of always muting myself when I'm not talking.
Got it.
It's like an instinct. Even if there's no practical reason, like there's no noise going on or anything, I'm like a human walkie-talkie. I gotta turn it off. You mute it when I'm not talking.
And boy, does that play right into our topic, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. It's a thing that you become trained on, right? Because we're talking about how now it's been just about a year, maybe a little more than a year since we went into lockdown. And for me, and probably a lot of our viewers and listeners, that was when working from home 24/7, or every day of the week, every work day anyway, became reality.
Yeah.
But for you've worked from home a lot before.
For years,
right?
Yeah. Most of the last 11 years, minus a short stint where we had offices over in Tampa, has been working from home. So yeah, I've been very used to it. This has been business as usual for me.
Yeah, I do and don't. So I wanted to share this week some of the things I've learned in the last year. I do and don't like working from home, right? Like for a lot of people in my industry, they've worked for companies that didn't have an office, period. So a lot of tech journalists, they've been working remotely their whole career, but not me. I've been used to working in an office. I was very happy to go into our office at Tom's Hardware every weekday. Even though I could have worked from home more if I wanted to, I could have taken more days here and there and said, I'm staying home today. I never liked doing it. I like to be around the other people. I like getting away from my house and my family and just being in the work zone. So I wasn't happy about this, work from home transition. But I've learned to make the best of it in a few ways that I figure I would share for, especially in terms of the technology, for folks who are still working from home and maybe looking for, hey, how can I be a little more productive? One thing is obviously hopefully by now you're not just crouched over a laptop. You've got a nice desktop setup, but maybe you don't, or maybe it could be better. One thing is good keyboard and mouse, so critical. Easy to say what it is, but I strongly recommend a mechanical keyboard. You can get a good mechanical keyboard for well under $100, sometimes even $60. The one I have here, which I've been using for a while, is is it's just pulling a bunch of wires. Is my Hex Gears Impulse. The non-RGB version of this, which is what I have right here. I have an RGB version in a cubby. Is only $89, and sometimes less. And it has box white switches, which are absolutely the best for typing if you don't mind the clicky feel, a clicky sound, which is I love. Some people don't, but hey, I like it, and really, really good, good quality, great feedback. Can type like 5 or 10 words faster than on some other keyboards. For mice, obviously, you might look to, if you're a gamer, gaming mice, as this Hex Gear keyboard is a gaming keyboard as well. Although gaming gear doesn't mean you have to use it for gaming. You can use it for office work. I'm using a very simple mouse here. There are some better ones, but this is really inexpensive mouse. The Logitech M510, been around a long time. I like having a wireless mouse. I think a lot of people do, just one less wire to tangle. Another thing to keep in mind is
I've got to
wrist
say,
comfort.
The M510 was probably, when I was at Radio Shack, was probably the most popular mouse we ever sold.
And they still make it.
I know.
They still make it. They still sell it.
Don't mess with
and
what
it's
works.
Been around for like, now there are other Logitechs that are like $100 that give you some added features for sure. But for $20-$25, I still really recommend this one because you get 2 buttons on the side, so you have your forward and you could program them, but forward and back, very important. You have really good tension in the scroll wheel. I like the ergonomic shape and the soft touch rubberized sides, and it does take AA batteries. Is it AA or AAA? 2 AA batteries. Check there for a second. 2 AA batteries, and I have to change them like once every 6 months. So it's pretty reliable in that respect. The other thing that you really need to keep in mind is wrist comfort, right? I'm a really big proponent of using some type of gel or foam wrist rest. This is a Staples one, but I really like, if this wears out, and it has been not worn out for a while, I would definitely get the HyperX wrist rest, which is again made for gaming, but who cares what it's made for? It's a really attractive, comfortable wrist rest that has cooling gel in it. Similarly, a lot of people don't think about the wrist rest for the mouse, but I also have a pad that has the wrist rest for the mouse as well.
Me too.
Again, if you're working, I gotta have my gel rests everywhere. This one is actually wearing out, so right. I mean, I can't say these are pretty looking, like they get a little ratty, but
yeah.
Especially when you're working from home, who will know? It's not, your wrist rests and your mouse pad aren't usually visible on your conference calls. Obviously, conference calls are a big deal now, so having a good webcam almost goes without saying. The webcam on your laptop, no matter what laptop it is bad. Some are worse than others, but none of them is very good. So what can you do? We have a list of the best webcams on Tom's Hardware. The top of the list, and sometimes it's out of stock, but stock has improved, is the Logitech C920 webcam, which is also an oldie. Has probably been on the market for 10 years or something, and yet still the leader in the marketplace.
A 920 has been on the market for, it's got to be longer than that, because I think I've had mine for that long. I couldn't have gotten it day one.
Yeah, I say at least 10 years, right?
Because
maybe long.
We had our first one We had our first one stolen by TSA coming back from CES 2011.
Yeah, like, and it's ridiculous how now there's a new there obviously if you want to spend more money, the new Razer Kio is something like $200 and will do 1080p at 60 FPS, whereas I believe the 920 only does 1080p at 30 FPS. But granted, on your conference calls, you're not doing 60 FPS. Here's a variant of it that I also have in front of me. This is the 930, which is just slightly different than the 920. There's a few different. There's like a 920S and a 920X. Most of it is the difference of sort of the software that comes with it, or whether it comes with a cover or whatever. But point being that with these, the image quality is really good. You're getting 1080p, which you want, and much better low light. And I find that the microphone quality on the 920 is good enough that I can do conference calls and not wear a headset if I want to, because the microphone is pretty decent on the webcam itself. Obviously, it helps if you're in a space where other people can hear you, like your family members, to get a headset. There's a lot of great gaming headsets out there. This right here, I'm not meaning to make a commercial for Logitech, is a simple Logitech headset. But again, you want to make sure that I strongly recommend that for the headset, you get USB headset and not one that uses a 3.5 millimeter audio jack. They're just, I get a lot of static with 3.5 millimeter audio jacks, sometimes some whine, and I guess it really depends on the sound card in your system, but you can't go wrong with USB. It just works. So I really recommend a USB headset over trying to get some of the fancier ones you can get have 3.5, but you're guaranteed to have good quality. Another thing that is really, really key for working from home is the chair. You got to have a comfy chair. And I have to admit, I have cheaped out on this a little bit. I would love to have, but I just cannot afford a Herman Miller chair. Right? There's some, certainly if you've got the money, it's probably worth.
My brother literally got one this week.
Which one did he get?
Couldn't tell you. That's
the one that I would
all
get.
The information I have.
The one that I would get is the Embody. Their two main chairs, I think, are the Aeron and the Embody. The Aeron is the one that has the mesh on the back, and the Embody is the one that has the fabric. I don't like those mesh chairs. A lot of people do, though, so to each their own. But the Embody is $1,600. So I did not get that. There are some good gaming chairs that can serve as office chairs, like Secret Labs has some good ones. I have kind of cheaped out here, and what I have here is a Staples Osgood chair that cost $100. It is giving me really good back support. However, anytime you buy a chair or any piece of furniture that is made from bonded leather, it will eventually go to shreds. And this is my second one because the previous one just started turning into, stripping. But, $100 chair, you don't expect it to last forever. If you get a $1,500 chair, it better last forever. Obviously, we should talk about the computer. If you're working for a company, they probably give you a laptop. If you're working for yourself or company, or you can't bear to use the company laptop, obviously getting a lightweight Ultrabook that you can take around the house, even if you're just within the house, is good for convenience sake. The ThinkPad X1 Nano that I showed a few weeks ago is a great choice there, except for the fact that it doesn't have a lot of ports. I still use an X1 Carbon, which has full-size USB ports. Now, what I did find is what happens when you want multiple monitors, and you want multiple monitors.
Yes, you do.
So it's I think everybody knows by now you should have at least 2 monitors, and monitors are really inexpensive. I'm sitting here looking at 4 monitors. So I may have shown this in the show before, but for people who are watching then, here's my setup. Well, sort of hard to see, but to see from this angle, but I have 4 monitors. Anyway, so what's my point there? Well, the more monitors you have, the more you can leave windows open to keep things present for you. So, for example, I have chat with my coworkers, right? And I put the chat on my upper right monitor, and it's always there when I'm working. I have, another screen where I keep my email inbox. And it's true, if you're really well organized, you can kind of drag windows around and have your inbox, and snap them. And I try to do that sometimes. But when you have if you have 4 monitors, you can take 2 of them and you can say, like, okay, my top 2 are for things that just need to stay there all day, and my email, and the bottom 2 are like my work monitors. But obviously, having 4 monitors is not for everybody. But I definitely recommend getting at least 2. The monitors that I recently got a few months ago, I got 2 4K monitors that are Lenovo ThinkVision. They're available either as the L28U or the S28. Either as the L28 or the S28. They sell it under both model numbers. One is a ThinkVision and one is not a ThinkVision, but it is the same monitor. And you can get it for between $250 and $300, depending on if it's on sale. I got 2 of those, so fairly inexpensive. The thing that you want to do if you're having a multi-monitor setup and you want to save desk space is buy a stand. Do not go with the wobbly stands that they give you. Make sure that the monitors you get are Visa mountable, which means you can mount. They have a standard mounting surface in the back, and then you can buy a really inexpensive thing that you can attach to your desk, as I have done here. My monitor arm thing here was $55 to hold all 4 monitors. So, and you can get ones that hold 2 monitors for even less. And I can actually pull them and move them around. So, definitely, you can improve your workspace by getting a third-party stand. So finally, you have to ask, how am I going to hook up to these monitors? If you're using a laptop, you need a dock. There's a couple of kinds of docks. This here is a Thunderbolt 3 dock from Pluggable. This one supports 2 4K monitors. You get a choice of HDMI or DisplayPort out, and a bunch of USB ports. If you get a Thunderbolt 3 dock, and your laptop supports Thunderbolt, you will get slightly better performance out of it, but those cost more around like $200. If you are not doing 4K, or you are not do not have Thunderbolt, getting a dock that just connects over standard USB, you can do for under $100. But that's if you have a laptop. If you have a laptop and you want to do 3 to 4 monitors, you're actually going to need multiple docks, because there's very few docking stations that support 3 monitors, and I couldn't even find one that supported 4. Another possibility is do what I did back over the summer, and go to having a desktop, because desktops can easily support 4 monitors, and there's no lag whatsoever. Obviously, that's not great if you want to move around your house. Then you also have to have a laptop. So that's a trade-off. Finally, I guess my final piece of advice, obviously, it always pays to have a dedicated space in your home if you can. It's definitely helpful to have a space that you can close the door, but obviously that's a luxury and not everyone can do that. But in order to keep out distractions that you make yourself, I recommend installing a browser plugin that blocks you from visiting visiting sites during the workday that you probably shouldn't visit. Something like I have one installed called Block Site, and there's another one that I've used called Stay Focused. And you can set those so that if you want to make sure that you don't go on Facebook or Twitter or read the news in the middle of the day or whatever, you can give it a list of sites, and during these hours you can't visit them, and it'll give you a message. So that's one way to kind of make yourself think twice about the things that it's easy to get distracted with during your day. I mean, those would be good even if you're in the office, but when you're at home, it can be easier to get distracted, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you've got people around. That always makes it a little more complicated. But yeah, just wandering off to Facebook and Twitter and whatever can be an easy distraction.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
My biggest distraction in the last year often is, I mean, I can be my own distraction too, so I don't blame them. But my son is doing remote schooling, so he's here during the day. My daughter's 2 years old, and sometimes they'll come and they'll knock on my door or whatever, even though we tell them not to. And but I remember before, when I had cats, they were also distraction. So because the cats would come knock on the door too. You have a dog. How
Yes.
do you set boundaries with your dog?
So Duncan, we have kind of seems like we have an agreement that he understands. I've got an early morning call that I have to be on every morning. Then afterwards, we come downstairs and I let him out, and then I go back upstairs and I work. And he either sits in his bed in the office, or will get up on the couch or whatever. And then we come down for lunch, and out he goes while I'm making lunch. And then we do it again about mid-afternoon. I let him out, and then late afternoon I let him out after work. And I mean, he'll come up and kind of poke at me sometimes, like, hey, give me some attention. I'll scratch his head and whatever. But generally, he just likes to be in the room with me during work, and then afterwards we'll cuddle up on the couch, or whatever thing he wants to do. But it seems like we have a pretty good working relationship, and it's probably because almost the entire time I've had him, I've worked from home. So, since he was little, he's been used to this. So that has certainly helped set those boundaries. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm on a development team of about 16 people that I regularly interact with, and cats in particular end up in the shot on desks doing whatever they do. And I think the world is just kind of getting used to and accepting that as the reality.
Oh, it's not even a matter of like being embarrassed in front of my my coworkers or whatever. At this point, like, I really don't care. Once in a while, I'll accidentally have the door open or something, and my daughter will come in and she'll want to sit on my lap.
Sure.
And like during a meeting, that's actually fine. Like, people like that. They're like, "Oh, your daughter's so cute," whatever. That's
agreed.
That's fine. The cats were more distracting because they would just start scratching things, right? So they were just wanting to sit and look at the screen. So. Yeah.
And being in
it's
inconvenient places.
Yeah, it's not the like peak coworker seeing it as so much for me as it would just be like not being able to get like hand to keyboard work done.
Yeah, and that's
but anyway,
that was kind of what I was meaning, is that we see them all the time, like getting up on the desk and stuff like that. And I think we're just kind of accepting that cats in particular are just going to be in the way for a while, or possibly long term, depending on who we are. You know, depending on the. I think the world is just accepting that as the reality.
I mean, I originally got, I mean, I want to get into this, but I originally got a wireless mouse because the cats used to bat at when I had a wired mouse and I had cats, I used to try to chew the wire, right? So like, because they would chase it around, right? So, it's funny the first time, right?
Right.
But
or from a distance where it's not my mouse that's being
right. It's
being
funny if
chewed
it's
on.
not you, and it's funny the first time, but yeah. So anyway, that's my advice for my best advice for working from home. I think we're all winging it, and I'd be curious to hear from our readers what their best working from home equipment and advice is. There's some advice that I would have given last year that I kind of threw away. Like, for example, I used to say, like, for sure I'm going to get up and like dress for work every day, and that has that unfortunately has gone out the window. I mean, it's still good advice, but I can't tell you to do it because I don't follow it anymore.
That's pretty funny. So I'm gonna go through my list real quick since you went through your list. So
Yes.
my mouse is a Razer Death Adder. My keyboard is a Synosa, and I have, because I love to have extra programmable keys. Razer has this cool thing called I think it's called a Tartarus, which is like a 22 key extra add-on that's also got essentially a joystick. That's
I know. Yes, that is really nice.
I
Tartarus.
love that thing because, like, for a visual studio, I've got macros for clean and build and all kinds of things. So I can be typing and just with my pinky reach over and hit, the O1 key, and it'll clean my project or build or run all just from here, which I absolutely love. Obviously, I'm weird. I've got 6 monitors because, I mean, obviously I've got problems. Plus extra laptops, but software engineer has way too much stuff. Of course, that doesn't count any of the phones. And then I've got another one of this chair, which is a radio chair. They're great, but as a regular consumer, you don't want this. You're paying because this thing is like 8 years old and it does not squeak. And that's what we paid for, was to make sure that it never squeaked on air. And for a headset, I use the Aftershokz OpenCom, which is a Bluetooth headset. And we had them on the show during CES, and I got one less than a week after the interview and love it. It's the best communication headset I've ever had.
I really have to look into that because I'm really sick of wearing these kind of headsets. So
the thing,
I would like to have a less obtrusive headset.
The thing that I really like about the OpenCom, and I know, again, not the intention to be an advertisement for it, but it doesn't cover your ears, so you can still hear what's happening around you. So if something's happening, the dog is whining or whatever, I know that something's happening, or Alexa goes off because there's a package that's been delivered or something like that. I hear those things, which I like, but I don't have all the background noise that other people have because it's just me and the dog. So it may not be ideal for everybody. But for me, I absolutely love the headset. Plus, you can use it for like sports stuff because it's all sealed and stuff. So it is a cool headset. So anyway, that's my setup. Mine is a little weird with the 6 monitors and things, but
how do you do so? I have a question for you about that. For that, I think our readers want to know. So it's hard to do more than 4 monitors.
Yes,
it's hard to do more than 2 monitors with a laptop because you need to get multiple docks. With a desktop, for those not keeping track, most discrete graphics cards will do up to 4 monitors. How did you get the other 2?
The left 2 are a separate computer, and I use
okay.
I use a really cool thing that came out of the Microsoft Garage called Mouse Without Borders, and it turns the other computer into an extension of your current one. You can mouse just like the screens are in your Windows array. You can mouse right over to it, and your keyboard goes with you, and your clipboard goes with you, and all that stuff. So as far as I'm concerned, they're the same computer. You do network mapping for your drives and stuff, and everything just works as if it's the same computer. It's pretty cool. And Mouse Without Borders is free. I've been using it since before Microsoft put their name on it. When it's one of my favorite like weird stories. Some developer just made it in his free time because he had his work laptop and his work desktop, and he just wanted to be able to go back and forth. And Steve Ballmer walked into his office one day and said, "How did you just do that?" And he's like, "Well, I built this thing." He's like, "Okay, you need to package that because I would like it." And Mouse Without Borders was born. So, super cool story, and it's absolutely a lifesaver for me. So, but that's my layout. It's a separate computer, but I forget that most of the time. So that's how I do it. Cool. Anyway, that's my setup. That's Avram's setup. We would love to hear what your setup is, what things are making your life bearable on working from home. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, go ahead and comment there. If you are watching this on the podcast or whatever, feel free to tweet us or find us over on social media and let us know, because we'd love to know what products and let us know what products, because I'm using a C930, by the way, as the webcam, and the USB version of this microphone, the bigger one of the one you're using, is the mic that I use. Anyway, let us know what's making your life bearable working from home in this situation. We definitely want to hear it. And I enjoyed this conversation, Avram, as I always do. But this one, having worked from home for so long is pretty personal to me. So it was a fun conversation. And as always, I look forward to what we talk about next time. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. Get all the accessories you need to up your game on your PC, console, or mobile device from Razer. Whether you're looking for a gaming mouse like we use here in the studio or in the office, a webcam and light for your Twitch stream, or an entire gaming setup, you can find it all at Razer by going to f5live.tv/Razer. And obviously, our previous segment was a little bit an ad for Razer, but not because they're a sponsor, because I actually do use all those products. Anyway, go ahead. Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
Oh, I was just gonna say the new Razer webcam. We have a review of on Tom's Hardware. Really good quality, and does so well at low light that they've actually taken the light off of the webcam, and now there's no ring light on it.
Nice. You can add one though. On the buy page, there is an option to purchase one in case you want one. But yeah, it's going to be my next. It's going to be my next splurge purchase. Is one of those, because they look cool, and the video that I've seen off of them is absolutely incredible. But speaking of changes to products in the gaming space, one of the core products that has existed in the gaming space for almost 2 decades is getting some changes. It's Xbox Live. The first change is that in the current Insider Alpha release for the Xbox dashboard, the name Xbox Live seems to have been replaced with Xbox Network with a lowercase n, which is interesting. Although any references to the Xbox Live Gold subscription have stayed that way, and a spokesperson for Microsoft has said that the distinction will be between the service and the subscription. So 18 years of Xbox Live seemingly coming to an end in one way or another. My guess is this is one of those things like the massive price increase that was supposed to be coming to Xbox Live that will not stick around because it's a name that people know and love. It's like when a sports stadium changes names because there's a sponsor who's bought access to it and people continue to call it what it was before. I have a feeling people will continue to call it Xbox Live even if it doesn't back out, and that will make it either official or unofficially continue to be Xbox Live. But the big change that's important is that in that same alpha release for insiders, a change that we knew was coming for a while is officially here in its first iteration for insiders, and that is if you're playing a free-to-play game, you are no longer required to have a gold subscription to Xbox Live. You can use a standard free subscription, which obviously makes way more sense. In the old days, when Xbox Live was new, all communication happened over Xbox Live, so it made sense that you had to pay for that infrastructure. But today, if you're playing Fortnite, very little of your communication is happening over the Xbox network. I'm going to try and use the name. Very little of it is happening over the Xbox network. Most of it is happening off network because you're playing crossplay. And so, as more and more of these things are crossplay, especially the free-to-play games, it's going to start to make sense that online capability isn't requiring Xbox Live anymore. We saw this when services like Netflix were no longer required to have a gold subscription to use them on your Xbox One. I believe on the 360 it's still required, but that's just because it's an old console and they didn't do updates. But on the Xbox One and the X, a lot of the media services and stuff are outside of that gold requirement, and that's because they don't run on the network either. So it makes sense that these cross-play things are starting to go that way, and we're seeing more cross-play, which does lead to that idea that we talked about sometime last year that there was, or maybe the beginning of this year. The last 12 months has been one big blur. At some point, we talked about the possibility that Microsoft might be giving up the ghost on forcing the paid subscription with the X and S. It didn't happen, but the fact that only one part of the brand hasn't been updated, that free-to-play games have dropped it, media streaming services dropped it a while back, does lend some credence into that theory again. But who knows? Both Nintendo and PlayStation do require a paid subscription for online gaming too, so it probably won't go away. But there is some there is some credence to that theory. I think this is a good move with the free-to-play games for sure, though. What do you think, Avram?
Yeah, I mean, they're making it more accessible, considering how much people spend on spend to buy their Xbox. And considering that Microsoft is not really providing that service, it's kind of it was not really nice for them to be charging people to use Fortnite's server. Mm-hmm. So this makes a lot of sense. Obviously, there's probably some revenue being lost here, but on the other hand, maybe they feel like they can make it up elsewhere, and it just looks bad for them to charge people for playing Fortnite.
In-game purchases. obviously have a commission back to the platform, things like that. So there is still revenue on things like Fortnite. It's not like Microsoft's going, well, you know what, forget it, you can keep it all. There is still revenue on the game, so it does make sense. It, especially since Sony and Nintendo, or at least Sony, has a carve out specifically from when Plus was first launched years ago. There's always been a carve out for free to play games, and Xbox Live didn't have that same carve out. So it's nice to see, especially as free to play games are becoming a bigger part of the community with things like Fortnite. It does make sense that they would align with the rest of the industry. I think it's a good move. It could mean that more people would be interested in playing it on the Xbox versus a PlayStation, because maybe people are making a decision between the two consoles, because playing Fortnite on the Xbox Series X, oh God, I hate those names, versus the PS5 required that extra subscription. So there's that possibility that they'll see the revenue from the consoles change because of it. We'll see. But yeah, I think it's a good move. And honestly, about time. But on the Xbox Live naming thing, I'm not one to give up an old name easily. Where the Lightning play, I still call it the Ice Palace, even though it hasn't been called that in, honestly, almost 20 years. I don't even know what it's called right now. It's always going to be the Ice Palace, and so it'll always be Xbox Live. This week's news from the tubes and F5 Live is proudly powered by Riff Tracks. Make fun of movies or let these guys do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities. It's like watching a movie with your funniest friends. And to find out about all of the full-length features, the short films, TV episodes, and live events, you can go to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. So over the last couple of years, we have talked a lot about privacy and security. It was our primary focus for 2020, especially as we saw, the rise of home communication and things like that. We put a lot of focus into it last year, and it's carried on into this year for a number of reasons. And the work from home aspect has been one of them. Is it Kaspersky? Is that how you pronounce the IT firm, the security firm? Kaspersky does a consumer IT security risk report every year, and their 2021 report came out and confirmed some of the things that we have been talking about. Mixed use of devices, for example, which if you're using a personal device for business purposes and you're not careful about it, it might give your company access to your personal stuff or expose company information on the open web when it's not supposed to. But the thing that struck me on this report that is related to a topic that you and I have talked about a number of times, Avram, is app permissions. Now, some of these permissions, and we've talked about it a lot lately because of Apple, but it applies on Windows, it applies on the web, on Android, on iOS, everywhere this applies. We always tell people before you install an app, especially from one of the app stores, where you can see it easily, look at the permissions that you're giving it, because if your solitaire game wants access to your contacts, it's not a solitaire game. It's malware. Because solitaire doesn't need access to your contacts. Well, it turns out one of the things that people aren't paying attention to is their webcam and mic permissions. 23% of all web users always give access to their webcam and microphone when it's asked for on a website, on an app, in desktop software, always. And that's an absolute no-no. You have to look at those requests and think, is this something, does this make sense? A, just like a solitaire game doesn't need access to your contacts, it also doesn't need access to your microphone. So if it's asking for that, something's wrong, run away. Unless it's some voice-activated solitaire, but probably not, right? So does it make sense that it's asking for access to the webcam and camera? Now, I will remind people that sometimes an app might have flashlight capabilities on your phone, and because the flash is part of the camera array, it might have to have access to the camera to be able to accomplish that. But your phone has it built in, so don't go messing around with that, is my recommendation. But make sure that it makes sense and that it's going to provide you value. 23% of you are always saying yes. And we know that even when it's an app that it makes sense on, sometimes it's a security risk, right? What was it? 2 years ago, we talked about a hole in Zoom's software on the Mac where it gave anybody access to your webcam and microphone even after you uninstalled Zoom. Not great. So even if it does make sense, it can cause holes. So if it doesn't make sense...
But nothing you can really do about that.
Right. But if it doesn't make sense, don't open the hole. Right? You don't leave your front door unlocked. You don't leave your front door unlocked all the time. You don't give keys to people you meet at the grocery store. It's the exact same thing here. Be selective, be thoughtful about what you're doing. Don't say yes to everything always. And it doesn't matter what it is. The upcoming iOS update, right? Do you want this app to be able to track you on and off platform? Think about it before you say yes or no.
One of the problems, though, and I can see why people would say yes to things, is a lot of times if you say no to something, it doesn't work properly. Right? You might not know why, but you say no to something, whether it's an app or something else, and it's just not. It doesn't gracefully accept. Like not all apps. I mean, websites are maybe a different story, but not all apps are very graceful about dealing with being denied permission. So they may just crash or something. And so you might think, oh, there must be a reason for this. I don't want the app to crash. So I'm going to give it the permission.
Right.
But yeah, it is absolutely something to be concerned about. I think the answer there, though, is if it's an app or something like that, then just close it. If it's then don't install it. Think twice. I have ended up on websites where it's like, oh, the website wants permission to something that I don't think it should have. Well, do I need this website to really be reading this? I don't need to read the Star Trek quiz. Honest, I'll just close it. I mean,
yeah,
so
random website.com with whatever thing you're searching for would like to know your location. Why? No. I mean, I understand why Home Depot might ask for my location so they can show you what your local store has in stock. I'm still going to say no and put a similar zip code in. But I understand at least that makes sense. But yeah, some article on Star Trek comes up and says the website would like to know your location. No, thanks.
No, exactly. So there's a lot of that. The other thing I want to add to this discussion is that when it comes to your webcam and your microphone, there's hardware ways of preventing. I mean, you don't want to grant permission. That's one thing. The other thing is you can get a cover for your webcam.
Yep.
And you can get a and you can, turn off your mic. There's several. I mean, one thing that I have here, that I really like, and I don't just use it for this. I don't primarily use it for this purpose, but I could. Is I have a USB hub that has on-off buttons for all of the ports. So if there's something like the webcam or the
That's
microphone,
cool.
if I'm not actively using it, I could just turn it off.
Wow.
Now that sounds cool. That sound like I didn't actually get it for that purpose. The reason I like having these is for other purposes. Like for example, there's a lot of like boards that I'll be working with where
Sure.
it's like, oh, you got to reset the board by turning it on and off, and instead of like plugging and unplugging it, I can just hit the button.
Clever.
To right. So that's the trick. But anyway, point being,
I want one of these now for exactly that purpose.
so I should I actually want one with more ports. So the one I have is like $10, and it's from Sabrent. There are many ones on Amazon, but the Sabrent one seems to be a nice one, and that's like $10, and it's powered. They make one with like 7 and 10 ports. That's like 7 ports is like $35. I may be getting that soon because this 4-port one is not enough. But anyway, point being, not to get off topic, but you can physically prevent the hardware from doing this. And a lot of laptops now have privacy shutters, and a lot of webcams come with a shutter that you can use to put over the lens.
It was even one of the things that you mentioned. One of the differences in the C920 lineup is that some of them have that built on.
Yeah. And if yours doesn't, I think you can buy a plastic one. Yeah. But I would rather have the thing where
there's Mark Zuckerberg, who
who puts tape.
He uses a sticky note. But I mean that.
Yeah,
but even I guess the point is, even Mark Zuckerberg, who's kind of looked at as the harbinger of all evil when it comes to anti-privacy, even he puts a post-it note on his camera.
But listen, he's no example for anybody, because it's not like he believes in not having privacy for himself.
Right.
I mean, he's never said, I want to live the non-private, whatever radical,
right.
I don't know what you call a non-privacy lifestyle, if there's such a thing as like, I just want everybody to know everything.
But he wants you to.
He's never held himself out as that. He just, and he is as a, wealthy, powerful person, is probably needs to keep his webcam covered more than most people, because he's a prime target for someone to spy on him.
Yeah.
But the only problem with this, there's a couple of problems with the post-it note Scotch tape method. One is you're going to get yucky tape possibly on your lens, and be throwing out a lot of tape and post-its. And the other is it doesn't cover the microphone.
Yeah.
And most webcams have a microphone built in. So if you have a laptop, supposedly the ones that have the privacy shutter are also shuttering off the mic when you do that, but some of them anyway. But it is a matter of some concern. If you have a desktop where there's no built-in microphone or speaker, then it's very easy to restrict access. I mean, you can unplug your microphone and speaker, or you can use what I do, like the USB. You could use a USB box and just like without having to physically unplug.
Sure. You could theoretically also plug in one of the little USB headset dongles and not plug anything into it, because that would take over as the microphone, and then there'd be nothing plugged into it. It's an interesting way to deal with it.
If you're counting on the software not to be like really super smart and circumvent Windows,
and switch
then then what you can always do is you can go into the audio device manager and disable things too.
True.
Disable them and re-enable them when you need them. That's
True.
another thing that one could do. But if someone is, I don't know, they're, for the average website, average app, whatever, that will absolutely do fine. But I suppose if someone had an extraordinary virus or something that actually went around the operating system and got direct access to the hardware, then that wouldn't help.
True. Well, the takeaway, as always, on this is be selective about the things you install, be selective about the permissions that you give, and anytime one of those pop-ups comes up, don't just say, yes, go away. Think about what it's asking and whether or not it's going to add anything to your day, because it could be exposing you to all kinds of external gook that you don't need. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. You know you get free shipping, but you get a lot more with your subscription. You get free music with Amazon Prime Music. You get free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video. You get free video games and a free subscription on Twitch to financially support the content creator of your choice with Amazon Prime Gaming. And there's a whole lot more that I haven't mentioned. To find out about our favorite features, to get quick links to those features, if you're not already a subscriber, you've got a 30-day free trial. And if you want to give it as a gift, we've got that too. And all of that is available by going to f5live.tv/prime. So speaking of Twitch, they have been going through an interesting series of growing pains over the last 6 months or so. We talked in the past about their inconsistent moderation process. We have talked about the bizarre emails that were sent out a while back with no information that just said, we deleted some of your videos. Why? Don't worry about it. Which they then later apologized for, because in reality it was DMCA takedown notifications, and rather than taking them down, they were deleting them, which wasn't great and isn't what anybody else does. So there were a lot of concerns there. But obviously one of the things that that Twitch is really great at, right, is the community aspect. Usually communicating with its creators. In this case, not so much, but in most cases, they're really good at communicating with their creators and creating a way for them to monetize their content without being obtrusive. They've got things like the Amazon bounty programs and things like that are all part of Twitch, which is great. But there's been no great way for relationships with advertisers to determine what it is that a content creator is doing and whether or not it aligns with their business. Well, their internal APIs seem to have leaked the existence of a new feature that seems like it's going to be called the brand safety score. There's a ton of information in our article at PLUGHITZlive.com that you can see exactly what the endpoint looks like, what the properties are, and what they're supposed to return. But the concern that's here is there's been no discussion about the possibility of this feature, which brings us back to that new issue of them not communicating with their creators, just like with the DMCA takedowns. And since there's been no communication, there's no direct guidance on what this is going to do. Is it going to be similar to the survey that you take every time you upload a video on YouTube that determines whether or not your video is safe for certain advertisers? Or is this going to be some AI based thing that's going to watch your chat and your content or whatever and determine whether or not you're a problem? I don't know, because some of these properties are weird. Or is this going to be a manual process? Because there's some suggestions in the documentation, which again isn't intended to be public. I don't know exactly how this person who posted screenshots of the API got the info. They may be an Amazon employee. They may just know where their endpoints are, because obviously everybody's working from home, so the endpoints might be public at this point. But some of them suggest that this might be a manual process, that there might be people at Twitch who are determining your worth to advertisers, which could be a little weird, because that gets us back to the inconsistent policy enforcement. I don't know. It seems unthought out, which might be why they haven't announced it, and why a comment from a Twitch representative said that this is something they're considering but not actively using. It might be like an alpha kind of thing. I don't know. It seems too nebulous at this point to me.
Well, I upload videos to YouTube all the time, and I get asked that same series of questions, which is kind of an annoying series of questions, like, do you use any bad words? Do you have any of this content? Do you have any of that content? And presumably they're taking my word for it, but do we know if Google has some way of checking it?
Yes. So early on in the existence of that survey, they verify that what you're saying is true, either by AI or by person. I don't know the process, but they do verify for a while that what you're saying is true. And then at some point, there's a little message that shows up at the top of your creator dashboard that says that your self-reporting has been on point, and we're going to trust you for a while. But they do come in and spot check still. So at some point, your self-reporting starts to go accepted, and then they spot check. But yeah, early on, they do, either through AI or human intervention, they do check that your self-reporting is accurate. For child-friendly stuff as well. That's also verified.
I mean, the scale of video on YouTube, they would have to have some kind of AI.
I would imagine so.
Just the scale is so huge that they would have to have some type of AI looking at it, which could be fallible. So, I mean, pick your poison, right?
Yep.
You want a person to look at it when the person can be fallible? Do you want an AI to look at it? The AI can be fallible. Like, right. You really can't win. Hopefully the AI is good. I mean, in a way, I'd rather have an AI. I can't blame Twitch for wanting to do this. Like, sure. I can't blame YouTube either, because if you've worked in publishing or media for any length of time, you know that advertisers are very image conscious, and what they don't want is to get a complaint from someone saying, "Oh man, I saw your advertisement on a video that had this offensive thing. How could you support that?" And given how advertisers buy ads online, they buy them programmatically. So I don't think there's any. I mean, maybe there's somebody out there who's like, I want to buy an ad on, this particular channel, but if it's a really big channel, perhaps. But my guess is that they're just saying, hey, give me Twitch. right? So,
although when you look
so
at the
you
way some of the gaming companies interact with Twitch, they do specifically go searching out things like what game you play, because that's all publicly available in the API. There's
right.
stuff about
So that they
about your ratings and things like that. So, let's say Razer, right? They've got a
yeah
number of game specific accessories, and maybe you play that game. They might specifically want a bounty program with you, not even like a standard mid-roll or pre-roll ad. They might want to offer you a bounty program where if somebody buys, a Death Adder Call of Duty, I don't know if that exists, but let's say it does, with your special discount code, you get $10 or whatever. They might specifically search you out on that. But what if you play Call of Duty and you're not ad friendly, right? Maybe you've had bans,
right.
maybe you've had suspensions, things like that. They'd like to know that, and that seems to be partially what this is about, which makes sense. I definitely, that the idea is definitely solid. I just want more information about what they're up to, because if this is anything like DMCA, right? Or
Yeah.
Let's take a look at Dr. Disrespect, right? He was banned from Twitch. Why? I don't know. It's been a year. He doesn't know.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, with these, I mean, it's important to remember that with these networks, Twitch, YouTube, even Facebook, Twitter, you are the product, right? So you are not, generally speaking. I mean, I guess with Twitch, you can pay extra to have like a better channel, better, our archives and things like that. You got to pay. So in that respect, you're a customer, but a lot of these things
or you can be a partner and generate the revenue by viewership and things like that. Because when you're a partner, you get
right.
You don't have to pay for it, but you get more storage and things. But you've essentially
Right.
paid for it by bringing in more viewers.
Yes, but generally speaking, when they're banning people from these, it's like, oh, hey, the interests, Twitch's interests, YouTube's interests, Facebook's interest, Twitter's interest, their interest is always going to come first for them.
Mm-hmm.
Not their interest in being fair, not their interest in, freedom of expression of any kind. Like, they want to avoid controversy and make money.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are causing a controversy and they think that it's more beneficial for them to ban you and deal with the controversy of you being banned than to deal with the controversy of you being remaining, then they will ban you.
Mm-hmm.
So they are looking out for their business interests. Their Twitch's business interest is to sell advertising.
Right.
So should not surprise anybody that they are doing this.
Yeah.
Also,
but I think
they have less
I think the first platform like this that is transparent about things, I think will be the one that takes over. I think if because Twitter, right? Twitter. Oh no, let's use Facebook as an example. Facebook took down an election night stream that didn't violate any policies. Why? To this day, there's been no answer. That's a scary type situation, right? I think the company that sends the email with a reason code and actually starts filling it out, I think content creators are gonna start going that way because they at least want to know what's happening. Getting a suspension or a ban that says reason blank, that doesn't help anybody, and all it does is it pisses off content creators.
I think the reason that they don't want to do it is the minute that they get too detailed with you, like, again, think of their interest, not what's fair, not what's nice, not what's right. Um, their goal is, we want to avoid more pushback. So if I get too detailed with you about what you did wrong, then you're going to nitpick it with me, right? Sure. Whereas if I just say, hey, you violated our standards, you'll be, oh, well, it could be anything, right? Now, if I was the one who got that note, I'd be very upset. And I'd want to know why. Similarly, not that I've had experience being banned from social media, but having had like apps or Chrome extensions or whatever rejected from the Chrome store without like a very specific reason was very frustrating for me. Like, it was like, oh, it could be any of these reasons. And was it a person, or was it that it just tripped something in an AI? And if I just changed one little thing, it wouldn't trip the AI, and then I would get through. So like, it's very frustrating.
Or was it that a cat walked near a staircase under a full moon? What's the reason it was rejected? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and if I just submit the same thing again, will I get through? Like,
exactly.
Right. So
I've had that. Interestingly, I have had exactly that with Apple on the Tom's Guide battery test.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of things that are very opaque about moderation policies, and people don't like opaque. I absolutely get it. The reason why companies are opaque is because the more detailed they are, first of all, it's more work for them to say, I'm filling out this, and this. But the more people are going to come push back to them and say, like, hey, you got this wrong. And sometimes, once in a while, it may actually be wrong. But it may also be true that, they're just going to invite whataboutism of some kind. Like, someone's going to be like, hey, you banned me for saying X, Y, and Z, but here's Joe over there that you didn't ban who said something else, which I think is even worse. True. And then they're going to have to sit there and defend why they didn't ban Joe, right? So, like, I think that's why they probably don't want to do it, is they don't want to have to get into this, like, discussion about why they ban one thing and not another.
Well, this API has ban and suspension reasons as part of the endpoint, so things could definitely get interesting here. As soon as this endpoint is accessible, I swear I'm gonna try and hit it from the outside and see if I can get a ban reason for Dr. Disrespect. See if they've got something in their system. This could be a ton of fun, but not for the reasons why they think it's going to be. Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We always appreciate our live listeners and viewers. If you didn't and would like to in the future, Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us. If you're not able to join us live, that's okay as well. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. You'll see all of our shows there and all of the different ways that you can subscribe and listen and watch and all of that. So next week is Easter Sunday, and so we know a lot of our viewers, a lot of our listeners will be looking for ways to spend the day and the evening with their families. So we will give you the week off next week, and then we will be back either the next week or the week after, depending on what the 11th looks like. We'll try and keep people up to date. I have a training on a super cool piece of technology that we're going to be able to share real soon publicly. I'm super excited about it. I get to go do a training on it. So it'll depend on how that day goes. We might come live from Amrock. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But for sure we will be back to normal after that. We've also got an idea for a new thing coming. I won't say exactly what it is, but I'll give you an idea of the name. It's called PLUGHITZ Live Unplugged, and we'll have some details on that coming up in the future. If we decide that it's the way we want to go, it'll be a cool idea. But with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we'll see you back next time. Ciao. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course hit the notification bell, because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.